welcome everybody to the fourth and final Family Life in a Lockdown webinar. It's fantastic to be back again with our fabulous panel and Kath and Leon hosting us through. So over to you, Kath.
Thanks, Claire. Loving it. Well, as Claire said, welcome to week 4 and hoping you've managed to enjoy some of this stunning weather that we've been having. Gosh, it's good for the soul. It's so lovely. So thinking back to last week, I wonder if you made a list of, or even thought of some of the things that that you're thankful for. Were you able to write something down in a journal or on the fridge or somewhere that is just one tiny little thing that you love, and maybe even it sparked some conversation around your household? I'm wondering if it also helped you find a little bit of peace in all the uncertainty of this moment. Or perhaps it's even guiding your mind as to what you're thinking about, whether you're thinking they're positive, or are you dwelling on some of the stuff that's coming at you from social media or the news, all those things. But last week we spoke about choosing to draw the positive things out of this season, this moment. Something else that came up last week was the notion, and something that we're going to reflect on tonight, thanks with the panel, was that sometimes living with others can be hard, particularly if you're in a tight spot, small space, and particularly over this time. But one reason being that we all tend to deal with things a little differently, and we spoke about that a little bit last week, and sometimes we process situations differently. Some like to talk things through, like talking through all the uncertainties. Others will keep it all bottled up and be thinking about it, and will perhaps blurt it out once they've had a time to think about it. And others show it differently and in different ways, whether it be anger or quietness, a pensive sort of calling up in the corner sort of scenario, or just frustrations that are coming out. And of course, conflicts arise over that time, and we looked at a couple of those. It's hard to understand why and how others are reacting in these different times. Actually, I had an amusing scenario in the supermarket this week where a lady was standing her two meters behind this lovely old gentleman who had his mask on, and he turned around and she gave him a fright, and he basically ran away. But the reaction of the lady was unbelievable. She let fly. She just went, "Oh my goodness, people are so crazy at the moment," and thought that this man was walking away or ran away because she was there. But both of them just reacting in such different ways, both probably understandable depending on what their world looks like at the moment. But it's interesting. So we're going to ask our panel tonight if that's been obvious in their household over these weeks. But then also we're going to look at what it is that actually stands out, the opposite almost, in that where our family moments have been at their best, and this stands out at the moment because we've got the conflict, but also we've got the goods. Sometimes it just feels so good and so right because our families have just bonded together. So we're going to be looking at a couple of these things. Question and answer things are down the bottom, so if you fancy throwing a question at us, then please do. We're happy just to discuss lots of things. Can't promise to give you any answers, but it'd be good to chat. So we're going to go to our panel now, and we're going to ask them 2 things. Firstly, have you found a difference in how you or your partners or your kids handle this time? Because it's so good to stop and reflect, to identify these things, and partly so that we're more aware of each other and understand each other's worlds. But then secondly, I'm going to ask you, the second thing was, has there been something that stood out to you that you've identified as a value that helps your family come together and be at their best? So I'm going to start with Helen tonight. Helen, are you able to answer those 2 questions?
Yeah, so I think we've actually had a fairly good week, really. Things seem to have settled down a little bit. Difficult to know quite why that is, especially seeing as there's kind of a lot of changes with increased freedom. but we've had a sort of fairly peaceful household. I think the value that kind of is really standing out for me is just that being kind to one another, which kind of sounds quite tame, really. But I'm increasingly feeling that kindness is such a massive thing. And just coming alongside people and being kind rather than jumping to be critical or defending your own position, kind of thing.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Helen. That's really lovely. When you say it sounds small, but it's so beautiful to watch when our kids are kind to each other. It is a really beautiful, beautiful moment. Great. What about Ellie and Richard? How's your week been? And have you seen any different ways in which you or your kids deal with this moment?
We've had a good week overall. I think, certainly kind of in the earliest stages, I think I did get into some kind of conflicts or minor squabbles about things, just in a bid to sort of micromanage and control small stuff. I just like nitpick about things that weren't really very important. And because I do a lot of the cooking these days, and Richard's a perfectly capable cook, but if he was doing cooking, I'd just lay into him about things, which is really unhelpful. And actually, they always turned out delicious in the end. So I had to sort of eat humble pie at the end, and acknowledge that wasn't the best way to handle things. So I think that's sort of how it bubbles up in me, or I sort of go from 0 to 100 miles, in a short space of time. If I feel under pressure, or if I feel stressed about something, I think I tend to I kind of react more strongly than I normally would.
Yeah. And Richard, do you want to throw something in there?
I can then sometimes not deliberately do things that I know she doesn't like, but equally think I could do that. I probably won't like it, but she's got to get over herself. So, but there's that. That's not necessarily a loving thing to do. I'm not advocating that. Just saying that's some of the relational dynamics that go on in the house. But we're okay. We're okay. Generally.
And then in terms of positive values that we've taken away, I think the main one has been for us just slowness, enjoying slowing down. I know that's not the case for everybody's family scenarios right now, but I think we had a lot of from pillar to post, like sort of social obligation-y type things. Not all of it was negative at all, but I think the accumulation of it was quite intense at times. So actually having more downtime together as a family, having less of a fixed, I don't know, just being able to make up a nice day together and then see that through without other things kind of cutting in on it. I think we're quite outward focused. Sometimes that can cut through the sort of family bonding time a bit. Like we let everybody else in. We don't really kind of have that much sort of sacred time as a family. So I think that's been a difference for us and a positive thing.
I wonder how that will look for you guys as you everything starts to open up again and the pressures start coming in. So it will be interesting to hear a little bit later on how you plan to hopefully hold on to that joy. Okay, so Andrea, what about your week?
Yeah, it's been up and down, good and bad days. I think I've had a couple of days where me and my husband have felt absolutely exhausted the whole day and a bit foggy headed, but I think that's just sometimes just the way of it. There's no particular reason. It's just can be quite an exhausting time at the moment. Differences in how we've handled lockdown. Sometimes I have to hold my tongue because I'm like wanting to talk through all the uncertainties and wondering, and And if I do that out loud to my husband, he tends to get quite anxious and it doesn't help him at all. So I found I've had to like keep my mouth shut when I really want to discuss something and talk to a friend or just think about it in my own time, and not lay it on him. And the kids, I think overall, they're tending to overreact to little things more than they would. Like, a little thing has become a huge thing, and early on in lockdown I found myself getting really stressed about them because they were getting stressed out, and it was very stressful. And we were all overreacting, so just trying to step back and kind of keep calm, and be the adult and not getting stressed.
It sounds like you've become good at this lockdown, getting better at this lockdown.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, qualities, kind of similar to Ellie, really. I've noticed how busy we were before. We were hurrying, had lots of obligations, both positive and negative things that we were rushing around doing, and maybe our boundaries weren't too great. We said yes to lots of things. And I feel we've got more space, obviously, now, where we have got more space as a family, and out of that I think has become a bit more creativity as a family, which has been lovely to see. The kids doing different things, trying out different things, and making videos together and stuff, acting together. And also we've enjoyed, I think, nurturing things. I've noticed, watching the garden grow, I think, because we're pretty much at home most of the time, just looking at our local environment, the garden, things growing, and planting things and seeing positive and hope. So yeah, that's been two qualities, I think.
That's great. Thank you. That's really great, Andrea. I love the way that that you're becoming more aware of, going back to your first conversation, of the things that are that bring the conflict, that you're aware that it's not helpful for your husband to hear you go through everything, and because you process by speaking. But awareness is just so important, isn't it? Being able to stop and reflect and go, oh, actually, love that. Thank you. Leon, are you there, Leon?
Yeah. Conflicty things. We've, I think this week, and I've mentioned this on previous weeks, I've got a legitimate reason and necessity to get out of the house and away and help on the farm, and had a funeral this afternoon. And so I'm away, and in my wife's language, enjoying myself, which I am actually, and she has to be, at home with the two children. So that's it's hard. You can't completely negotiate it around. I've got to go some of that time. So we have to work out, when I can give her some space away and everything. So good sort of negotiation things, but it's just that unequal opportunity, I suppose. Okay. So I was going to echo Andrea's thing. The space has given us a little bit of time to be creative, and some of those quite obvious things with the two children we've been doing. We've converted the got like a chalk easel board. We made that into like an art board, and so we do regular painting and stuff, which is nothing amazing, but it's just nice to just paint and make things and upcycle and all of that sort of thing. And it takes time, doesn't it? You could just throw them in the sitting room to get on and do it, but actually now because we might as well, because we're in the house as well. Yeah. Yeah. We're doing it with them, and I've got a load of cardboard boxes, and we've made robots and blah blah blah. And it's just nice. That's and so I hope we'll take that with us. We won't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. That's great. Thanks, Leon. That's fabulous. And Sarah.
Yeah, I think similar to Helen, like kindness and teamwork, I suppose. The fact that, obviously the house is a tip every day. And so the idea, and all three of mine are under 5, but still, you can teach that early, you play your part in tidying up. It's not, I didn't make the mess, I didn't clear it up kind of thing. So teamwork, kindness, yeah. And I think that we value community as well. We're a lot of extroverts in our house, so it's not a complete surprise, but just, you know, that's a family values that we look out as a family as well. But I think in many ways for us, because things have still in some ways been not normal, but normal, because my husband's still been going out to work every day and my children are all under 5, so although my eldest was in reception, she's still only 4, so it feels natural to have them all home. So we've not had massive adjustments in that respect. So I think it's hard to see how it's affecting us. I mean, obviously every now and again we see things come out, but I don't think there's massive like, oh, this affects them this way and that way. So I don't have much to say on that one, but
yeah. I think when our kids get older, it's that time when actually sitting down together and having little family meetings and things like that, you can discuss the whole how you're dealing with this, and I notice that you're doing this. But when they're younger, it doesn't work so much that way, and life is a little bit different in a normal way. But that's really helpful. Thank you, guys. It's been really nice to hear from each of you.
Toya was just had something to share as well, just from the chat.
Oh yeah.
She was just saying.
So, beautiful. Thank you. Thanks, Toya.
My girls, 13 and 16, have a great relationship, and that's only got better throughout the lockdown. Yeah. Even had a sleepover.
That's so precious. That's fantastic. Well, part of the reason why, or part of what we're going to say today or talk about today, is this notion of holding on to exactly what Toya has just brought to us, and some of the things that you guys have brought, that notion of holding on to this this new way of being, the good things of this new way of being. And it's just so great to reflect on this this notion of when is our family look back on and go, oh my, it was during that time that our guys bonded in a totally different way. And I love that notion. When is our family at its best? Even in this time, there are still moments that are better than other moments. Obviously, we have our special ones, but being able to identify those moments when we have fun together, when we show that we care for each other, like some of the things that you guys have been talking about, and they might be few and far between, but if we look, I think we will find some of those special moments. So the question is, what is it that's playing out in these times? And if we can identify what's playing out in these times, hopefully it can help us to sort of take the gems, the good moments, to carry on and be a part of our family as we go forward. So thinking back over what some of our panel have said, there are some of these core things that rise to the top when our families are at their best. So there's been care and love and kindness was the word that I think Helen and Andrea both used. And also there's the creativity that some of you guys have picked up. I know that some of the families that I've been speaking to, they've become so creative in the way that they can help their neighbours. And even just in going shopping for them and having little lists for their neighbours or anyone who can't go shopping. And there's even that notion of responsibility, a value of responsibility, of getting jobs done. And I can't remember who said it, but somebody said something about tidying the house. Oh, it was Sarah, wasn't it? That notion of turning that tip into into something that actually resembles a home, but just the satisfaction of everybody getting together and getting a job done. So I wonder if you can see any of these in your family. I know for me this past week, we attempted to play a game of cards over FaceTime with our kids, who all live in Australia, by the way. But it was hysterical because we watched our son-in-law try and make the technology work for us, that when we turned a card over, they too turned a card over on their side of the world. And we swapped cards, and it was really quite funny, to the point where it wasn't about the card game, it was all about how we managed to do it in a crazy way. But our creative ways has always been a strong thing in our family. We always seem to do the routine things of life in crazy and different ways. And interestingly, our family became known for this. and it sort of became almost like the culture of who our family is. And people knew that when we put something on, it was going to be really different. So for others, it may be generosity that they have identified as a value, or being loving and being hospitable. Even in this time of isolation, just helping each other or helping others to do shopping. And then, in a sense, by building and nurturing that value that you've seen come through in this time, our families become known for those values that we've identified. And it's a great thing, particularly when our kids can see that, oh, our family is creative, or our family is known because we're hospitable. So I wonder if identifying these little gems, let's call them, or these values, that they are actually become more obvious when things are hard, like this time, because there's a stark contrast between when our families are doing really well and when our families are not doing well. But these little gems are something that we can actually take from this time, and we can nurture them as being incredibly precious as gems, and something that can grow together as a family, as our families grow up, and that culture becomes part of who they are. In fact, our tagline of as I mentioned in week 1, our tagline of our parenting course is nurture and then connect and grow. It's almost like a tree, because we want to build each of the members of our family up, and we want to help them to grow up, because our kids, they matter. They are precious. And I wonder if somehow we're able to encourage each other to stop and reflect on when your family is at its best, and then look at what's behind that. What is it that makes that time fantastic? Why is it that our kids are loving each other at the moment? Why are they wanting to have a sleepover? Why is it that our kids are having enjoyment in tidying up? It's a great thing to be able to identify all of your family to become more like that. So I would love to be able to, Leon, have we got anything that we need to address in our questions?
Yeah, just Toya has commented again. Let me just read this. Thank you, Toya, for contributing like this. It's great. With the extra time, the girls really help with cooking the evening meal, taking responsibility for helping and clearing up afterwards. So it's not just left to the adults. Yoo-hoo. So good. Our 13-year-old is getting really involved in the cooking and supporting our 16-year-old in practical skills. Yeah, so that's
great. And how good is that to watch that? I just love that notion of sitting back and just going, oh my gosh, they're actually, this is what we're encouraging. We're actually building our kids to become adults, to be able to learn to fly. And that's part of our role as parents, to be able to do that. So that's exciting, Toya. That's really great. It's been really nice having you as part of our panel, per se. Lovely. What I would love to be able to do now is to hand back to our panel, and I'll ask them 2 questions again. And I would love to be able to wrap up our time together by asking them what one thing your family will take out of this time that perhaps reflects a little bit of what your value is, and how can you ensure it to keep on growing when lockdown is over. So they're my 2 things. What is it that you would like to take out of this time that reflects your values, and how are you going to encourage that to keep on when all of the things start coming back together again? So Helen, let's start with you again.
So I think, it kind of relates to the kindness, but it's what we've really been able to connect more, and particularly my 16-year-old and my 14-year-old. They've really been able to connect. My 16-year-old has been doing the bulk of the homeschooling for my 14-year-old who has special needs. And that has been a really brilliant connection for the pair of them. I've been able to connect with her as well, just coming alongside doing things together that we never made time for before. And I don't know how we're going to carry on with that. She's expressed how good it is to be able to do kind of all the keep fit that we've been doing, and saying, how can we carry this on, Mum, when this changes? And yeah, we've had the conversation that we hope we can, but I'm not sure that we've made much progress on how we can keep those habits and that kind of connection going when life crowds in. Whether we can stem the crowding in and just realign our values a bit, I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen.
That's so precious, Helen. Thank you for that. I love the fact that you've had the conversation and identified it. And I think part of the delight of having older kids is that we as adults and our kids when they're older can really become a part of coming together in sort of regular family meetings per se, and just putting this out there and going, so how can we do this, and allowing everybody to own it, and coming back every week or however long that you make it and say, let's meet again in 2 weeks' time, or and see how we're going, and just keeping accountable and keeping in check. I love it. I love that you've started that already, in a sense that you've got the conversations already happening. That's really great. Thanks, Helen. Ellie and Richard.
So I think for us, what I talked about earlier about slowness, we're quite an
purposeful slowness.
Purposeful slowness. Yeah.
Not just being slow.
We're quite an extrovert household as well, so we like having people over, and we have missed that. But I think one thing we had been practicing before lockdown started is trying to kind of carve out time on a Saturday to Sunday, kind of Saturday morning till Sunday lunchtime, where we just it was kind of our Sabbath. So we'll have like a special breakfast together, make American pancakes or something, get in some extra nice ingredients, and then we sort of plan a day where we go out for a family walk, or we go explore somewhere we haven't been before, and then we sort of look at a story in the Bible together, and then we do church together on the Sunday. So in some ways we've maintained that in lockdown, and we've tried to not do the things that usually crowd in on a Saturday, like shopping and like the weekly shop, and what other things, like washing, and like there's a kind of minimum that you have to do, like tidy up after meals and that kind of thing, otherwise by Sunday you're living in a tip. But I think just a slightly more purposeful way of spending time together and reconnecting with God as well, and with creation. So I think that's kind of been something we've started and we want to carry on as other things kind of come back in, not to let that slip. Yeah.
I think it's been easier to be present with people because the lack of almost kind of meeting time, social time, all of these things means that when you come to, well, for me anyway, when I've come to meeting people through Zoom primarily, I feel mentally and emotionally ready for it, almost wanting it. Whereas in other times, I'm like, okay, we're doing this out of routine because we have to. And we do enjoy it, but equally not necessarily as mentally present. I suppose the advantage of lockdown easing slowly is that hopefully there will be an ability to kind of figure out how to keep things going. Obviously, if lockdown was suddenly released, then all of those old habits would sort of force their way back in. But hopefully with lockdown being eased slowly, it might give these new habits, family values, a little bit more time to bed in as various things get piled in on top again.
Yeah. Thank you, you guys. That's really so many things I want to comment on there. Yes, I love the fact that in a sense your kids will probably look back on their time as growing up as being, remember we always used to have this day where we literally just stopped and just enjoyed each other's company. And I can just see them in years to come looking back at that as being a real treasure and something that they will value a lot. But yes, Richard, I love the fact that we're coming back into this new normal slowly, and it does allow us time to try and hold on to these goodies, which is part of the reason why we want to chat about it tonight. So that's really great. So thanks for that. Sarah.
I think ours is really similar to Richard and Ellie's in that we were extroverts, always busy, always had a plan. And if we didn't, it would also be, me and my husband would kind of be like, okay, this is our downtime, like this is our kind of chill day, and not be overly proactive or creative. Like we've all found we're more creative than we were before with the kids. And so I think definitely carrying on, just keeping some Saturdays free and like just saying we're busy that day, even though busy is with ourselves, and really having that quality time as a family and giving our best on those days, I think is something to carry on.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. Leon.
Yeah, one of the things which has come out quite nicely is there's a little bit more of our older 7-year-old is all these conflicts and homeschooling and frustrations. We've kind of encouraged her, and she's kind of done it, to work out her own routine and her own approaches and strategies. And so she's 7, so it's not fully there. She's not an adult, obviously, but she's begun to take hold of that. So she cleans her room now. She's Mondays and Fridays, and it's I just written down, it's sort of like it's not interdependence yet, but you could see how giving her the space and the time, which we've had to work out because it's a bit more of a pressure pot at the minute, that we want to take that forward. We don't want to lose the fact that we can work out together how we organise our family and how we do our times, how we do the chores, how we do the negotiate what we do, what the treats are, that kind of thing. So I maybe it would have happened anyway, but I think it's a necessity that's kept her sane, kept us sane, and I think digging down underneath it is a good thing to celebrate, really, that we are together work out for the best for the family. We're not going to impose it. We're not going to shout at each other endlessly.
And you said a great word there. You said the word celebrate, and I love the notion of celebrating these good times. And I think our kids appreciate when we celebrate something. It's because it's good, obviously, but they associate the fact that this is a good thing. Let's do this because we can celebrate it, and it's just in crazy little ways. I mean, be creative in the way you celebrate, but you can do that so simply by doing a crazy pajama run around the house at a silly hour, or it just there are so many little ways in which you can celebrate, and our kids can really acknowledge the fact that they've done, or something is going right, is going well. I think in these days we need to know that. So thanks for that, Leon. And Andrea.
Yeah, I think similar to others, really. Just noticed that I've been able to be present in time with family, which normally I struggle with, and my mind will be on other things, or I'll be rushing on to the next thing, rushing to get kids out of the door, telling them to hurry up, and getting stressed and maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed with different things I'm carrying, and a lot of those things have been taken from me now, so I can just be more present. And I think being more present has allowed us to be creative. So yes, how to keep that going when lockdown sort of eases over the next few weeks and months. I think I've just got to be better at saying yes and no, and evaluating things before I say yes, and not getting swamped with things, and knowing the value of just being present with your family. It can seem like something so small and not very tangible, not something you can really now I've experienced it more in quite a intense way, not being able to leave them for 9 weeks. But you know, I think I realise more now how special it is, that time of being present.
Yeah, that's great. That notion of being present, both Richard and Andrea mentioning that one. There was another word that you said then that Sarah also used. Sarah, what was that? Did you pick that up? No, it's gone. Never mind. It's just great to hear all those little gems. I mean, this time it's a fascinating one. I want to finish off with something that that's in a sense sums up a lot of what you've just. Go on, Sharon, because I think it's good.
Just said there's a phrase we came across recently which said "doing nothing isn't nothing."
I like it.
Because you're doing nothing doesn't mean you're doing nothing. There's lots of regeneration. Sleep, you know. Body does lots of things when you're sleeping. You're not doing nothing, although you kind of are. Yeah, just taking that thought into your woken world.
I love it. I think we've learned a whole heap that we would not have learned had this pandemic not happened. I mean, you think about all the things we've been talking about, and so much of that has almost been accelerated over this time because life has been so intense and here. And so I love that. And I love to think that we can take advantage of all this goodness in this season and take it forward. Unless anybody else has got something else to add, I'll take that as a no. I'm going to finish off with just a little picture from a book that I love, and you guys might, in fact, I'll show it to you in a minute, but it basically reflects, the picture that I've chosen reflects a little of what we've been talking about, and here it comes here. This is the book, and this is Charlie Mackessy's book. I don't know if you know it at all, but he just has some beautiful words, and this one I love. This is the horse and the little boy and the fox and the mole. And they've just come through a storm, a big storm, and I'll read it. It says, "I've realised why we are here," whispered the boy. And the mole asks, "For cake?" which he always asks. And the boy says, "To love." And then the horse says, "And to be loved." And I think, thank you, Claire, for bringing that to us. I just think that this time is so precious. It is such a precious one, and if we can come out of it with more love and more connection with who we are and who our families are and how we can grow and nurture that, then I think we've done pretty well. And I think that we can pat ourselves on the back and celebrate, because it is a great thing to be able to grow in all of those things. I'm going to hand back over to Claire, who's going to wind up for us tonight, and I'm hoping that she'll just pray for us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Kath. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody who's for Toya and Renita who've been listening in, but also the many of you who'll be listening over the coming days and weeks as well. And our heart is that this has been a real blessing. We've learned a lot from each other, and we hope that that's been a blessing for you as well. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to finish with a blessing. For over us, over you, feel free to engage or not. But yeah, I pray that the Lord would bless us all and keep us, protect us all, and that He would cause His face to shine upon us. And as we get to know Him, that we would find His grace and experience His grace. And may we also know His favour as well in our families, in our workplace, in life in general, wherever we are. May we know His favour and also know His peace as things come together in the way that He has designed, and many of the things that we've been talking about. So may this be our experience, your experience, all of our experiences as we go into the rest of 2020 and all that God has for us. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Claire.
Okay.
Thank you for watching this video. Why don't you join us in building a life-giving, hope-filled culture by building each other up, helping each other grow, because quite simply, every single person, without exception, is of infinite value and worth. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe and click like on YouTube, to follow us on Facebook, and do leave your comments below as well. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you around. Bye.